Well, that was a great day of PTR testing, Tally, but I'm pooped. I think it's time to head home.
Hey, don't worry, Evie. I'll give you a ride in my new sick ride. Hop in. Let's cruise, baby.
Yeah, you see, the thing is, you don't actually have a driver's license, do you?
Well, not in real life, no, but that place sucks anyway. We're in a video game now, Evie. This is my turf. And also, my ride is sick though, and we should totally cruise.
I don't know, Tally, it looks kind of dangerous. Have you been practicing? Can you actually drive it?
Evie, no offense, but I've been playing this game for like decades. I think I can manage a little.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. That was just reverse. I pressed reverse because I thought it was forward by mistake. This button will definitely work.
I think that was the boost.
You know, I think these roads are too small. I think there's obviously a bug on the PTR right now where the roads are too small and there's too many corners because they can't possibly expect us to get around like this on these tiny roads, and I'm European.
You should maybe write a bug report.
I ain't no snitch, Evertel. Anyway, get in. I'm pretty certain I've got it now.
I might just get a train.
Evie, before you go, can you just maybe drive my car out of the dumpster?
Oh no, Tally, I think I'm disconnecting. Sorry.
Evie?
PTR stuff, you know.
Knowledge is power.
Hello Internet, Taliesin here, and welcome to another episode of the Weekly Reset, Taliesin and Evertel's wondrous wisdom show. In a week where Plunderstorm is back, and in black, and Turbulent Timeways is back. Complete 4 dungeons a week for 5 weeks during the event to get the timely Buzzbee mount while you're leveling all your alts in super quick time. Just thought I'd remind you of that one. And in a week where, most importantly in my humble opinion, we have now been able to spend an entire week in the 11.1 PTR, playing through the entire zone of Undermine, driving the car all around Undermine, questing and delving and dungeoning and tier setting and all sorts. And so if you don't mind, we're going to spend this entire video talking with you all about that new patch and what we think about it. But the TLDR is, it's actually really good. I've been doing this job for coming on 9 years now. I've tested a lot of PTRs and new zones, and I have to say, out of all of them, I have never played one that felt as fresh and enjoyable as Undermined. This shit is legitimately delightful, but don't take my word for it. Watch all the stuff that we're about to show you and make up your own mind with our guide to the most important and best things on the 11.1 PTR so far. Okay, go, 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 go.
Warband campsites. Straight off the bat, the first thing you're going to notice when you log into the patch is the new Warband campsites updates. The Warband campsite screen is low-key one of the best changes in WoW, like ever, anyway. But now there's a whole lot more to it, with a whole host of new backgrounds available to swap out. Everyone will automatically have the idyllic Onaran overlook unlocked from the start, but there are others in your new dedicated collections tab to collect through various achievements. Freywald Spring is one you can work towards right now to have ready for the launch of the patch by completing the All That Kaz meta achievement, which isn't in the live game right now, but will include a link in the description to an appropriate Wowhead article with the inside skinny on what you have to do in advance. You've probably basically already done it. It's the meta, you know? There's Cultist Key, a background from the Hallowfall Nightfall Sanctum Delve, which is unlocked by completing the Season 2 Delver's Journey, and best of all, obviously, no doubt, is the Grand Galagio Gallery, featuring the entrance to the new raid, 20th Century Fox-style floodlights and all, which you get by completing the Undermine meta achievement, Racing to a Revolution. Very cool, very nice, but I haven't even told you the best thing about the campsite screen, because now you can have more than one. You can create as many campsites as you want, name them, and have each of your alts in their own little groups, just having a wild old time out in the wild. Each campsite can also be minimized for ultimate organizational nirvana. The potential for adding to these screens every patch with new/old locations, which can be unlocked with new meta achievements, is obviously limitless and incredibly exciting. And honestly, if this were the only new feature in the entire patch, then 11.1 would still be one of the best patches ever, because seriously, look at this shit. Luckily though, it's not the only feature in the patch.
D.R.I.V.E. Another high-profile feature in Undermine is the new D.R.I.V.E. system, your goblin hot rod car that will zoom you about the place in lieu of flying, because there's no flying in Undermine. I repeat, there is no flying in Undermine. A risky move, even if a completely understandable one, but it creates a lot of pressure on these cars to be fun and fast, and basically the ground mount equivalent of dragon riding. Just do that, just make it the ground mount equivalent of one of the best features ever put in the game, and we'll all be happy. So are they? Well, my first impressions of the car was that I really hated it. Genuinely despised it on an almost visceral level. I couldn't control it. I was crashing into everything and missing every corner and getting stuck behind stuff and hitting like tiny little things in the road like this big and stopping completely dead. And I couldn't see for the life of me how this was any more useful than just normal ground mounts overall. That feeling lasted all of about 10 minutes until I actually got used to it, and now it's really good and I like it a lot. At its heart, the Hot Rod is a very standard feeling video game car. Not on the same level as driving in a game based entirely around it, like Grand Theft Auto, but comparable to driving cars in a game like Watch Dogs, I guess. All the steering is done via the mouse, there's very obvious momentum at play, and a higher than usual turning circle for ground mounts. You'll often want to slow down at corners or drift round them, all pretty familiar video game stuff, but it felt very weird at first because up until now, WoW has never had anything that moved like this, which is what threw me at the beginning. But after a little bit of practice, I'm proud to say I'm now zooming around Goblin Town from quest to quest at full throttle, drifting around, doing donuts in World Boss area and using boosts like a pro. And seriously, this bad boy is fast. You can get from one side of the map to the other in like 10 seconds if you know what you're doing. And there are races and customizations, both visually and performance-wise. So for example, when you first pick up your ride, it has an average top speed and an average acceleration. You are Mario or Luigi. With upgrades, you can later customize that to higher top speed and slower acceleration, Bowser or Donkey Kong, or faster acceleration and lower top speed, Princess Peach or Yoshi. And this is the one I've been using because it's still plenty fast and I like the extra acceleration because I mean, I do still hit stuff sometimes and stop sometimes, just occasionally, you know. There are also options to increase or decrease your handling in drifting and the speed versus efficiency of your boost, all in this very work-in-progress talent tree thing, which also lists different passengers you can select to drive with as well, which I'm assuming will give you different traits and abilities, but which isn't actually implemented at the time of writing. I'm actually really happy with the drive system. It's a fun and thematically fitting way of getting around the zone, and I'm pretty confident the player base overall is going to really like it. After the first 10 minutes when they're going to really hate it, but then they're going to really like it. Something people have been asking me a lot on stream is whether it will get rolled out across the game and eventually replace normal ground mounts in the same way that dynamic flying replaced normal flying, and I would say no, probably not, to be honest. No shade on this system, which is great, but this is very much a vehicular feeling kind of thing, you know? The momentum and the turn circles and the 3-point turns just wouldn't feel right on any mount that has like legs. So unless they decide to just apply the drive system to the handful of car and bike themed mounts in the game, like the Meat Wagon or the Blazicle, I think it's highly unlikely that we'll see this system outside of Undermine in the future, which is fine, honestly. It's still very fun in Undermine, and it just means that whatever the dynamic ground mount system does turn out to be, and I think that will definitely happen, it'll be something else again entirely. Possibly also very similar to something in Guild Wars 2, I don't know.
Stuff. It's big news for those who like massive faces on their mounts. The Crimson Shredder tank and its massive face is yours for completing Keystone Master in Season 2. And if you like that face, but correctly think it could be improved by adding a cigar, then allow me to introduce you to the Big G, the Mythic Chrome King Gallywix mount drop. But there's more mounts and more faces in 11.1. Goblin armored hyenas, rockets, mechs, and surfboards can be picked up from vendors or drops. There's the Mecha Devilsaur mount we all saw and instantly coveted in the trailer. And yeah, we're just gonna take a moment to look at this. Shh, I'm still looking. Okay, I'm done looking at it. For now. I'll look at it some more later. The Junk Maestro's Magnetomech is from the Glory Rating achievement. The insanely shiny Delver's Gobtrotter transformation is the Season 2 solo Delve mount, complete with a face, a pointy face. PvPers will be happy to have the vicious Electro Eel and the prized Gladiator's Fellbat, or at least as happy as PvPers ever are about anything, so basically about as happy as the least happy person you've ever met. The outdoor armor sets in 11.1 are also appropriately Goblin Mechy, with cartel-based colors and loads of Goblin charm. Cloth wearers effectively have a brain jar, for all that intellect of course, leather looks suitably scrappy, and the plate is just a big bad gizmo guy from all your favorite 90s cartoons. And the male set is sponsored by Wowhead, as you can see, and this is just a personal opinion, but I'm not a huge fan of Cyclops helms. I don't like this Cyclops helm. Listen, hunters still haven't recovered from tier 16. Please.
Oh yeah, hi, me Tally butting in here. Just to point out one armor set that Evie did not mention, the incredible Blood Bowl armor sets in various colors. You can be Blood Bowl players now, and that's cool.
There's also all the new class tier set appearances, which Tally and I will go through in depth in the next video on this channel. And of course, there's shared tier set bonuses, which we are not going to talk about today because this video is stuff we like about 11.1.
The Zone and Story. The most obvious new addition in any major patch is, of course, the new Zone. And I'm just going to go ahead and say it, the Undermine is an absolute belter as far as these things go. Blizz have been gently easing us into Goblin lore and characters throughout the War Within so far, but from now on, it is full-on Goblin City. Like, quite literally, it's a Goblin City. The Goblin City, which also is the last of the originally planned vanilla WoW zones to finally make it into the game, by the way. And which, to me at least, feels more unique, more playful, and beautifully realized than just about any other patch zone in recent times, maybe ever. Part of that appeal, I think, is the fact that the entire thing is just one city, packed with buildings and NPCs and nooks and crannies and life just happening, all infused with that acid trip dayglow humorous goblin mecha junk vibe. And yeah, so your enjoyment of all this might depend on your tolerance for that goblin accent and for names like the Incontinental Hotel and Slap Central Station. But honestly, I would describe myself as someone who doesn't traditionally love the WoW Goblin vibe, but I adore Undermine. The place just feels vibrant and real and lived in. A fully functioning and established location and culture that we're just visiting, which is my favourite type of WoW zone. It's mazy and three-dimensional. The voice acting is universally A-grade. There's a world quest where you play golf with bombs. The entire roof of this underground city has blue scrap metal nailed to it with corrugated clouds to make a sky which bizarrely has a day and night cycle. There's a dock with nice restaurants and an electro band that call themselves the Cellar Gnomes, hosting a rave on the beach. There's bars and shops and industrial zones, more string lights than a college student's bedroom, and also clearly all the goblins are very much up with all the latest WoW news because the Wowhead logo is absolutely everywhere. Like, I've never seen as many Wowhead logos outside the weekly reset, honestly. Ooh, another thing I really like is that the entrance to the raid, the Liberation of Undermine, is actually on the outside of the main hub, the Incontinental Hotel, which is probably where you're going to set your Hearthstone for the patch, and which means that on raid night, your entire team will gather in the hotel before going to raid, and that's just, I think that's really cool. This place has got so much personality, which is also represented really well in the campaign quests that get you there and settled into the city. And I'm going to talk about the campaign a bit now, so inevitably there will be spoilers. This is technically a blue bot spoiler bot section because none of this is datamined. This is all stuff that Blizz intends for us to see on the PTR, but I'm going to mark it as a red bot spoiler bot section because frankly, I want to use my new plushie, so yeah, there you go. And if you want to, you can skip this entire chapter of the video on the progress bar here or in the description below. I've talked quite a bit about how I think the War Within opening campaign story quests are maybe the best structured opening patch story since Mists of Pandaria. It has a strong narrative line through all the zones and an arc with an actual beginning, middle and end that reaches a conclusion in the launch patch, whilst also obviously serving the wider expansion and indeed World Soul Saga story. And I think Undermine does the same thing. I'm not exaggerating when I say I consider this to be the best major patch storyline and execution since Argus in 7.3. You are eased very gently in with a new area in the Ringing Deeps that establishes how and why you are heading to the Undermine in the first place, and then when you finally get to the city, you find that the place is basically now being run by Gallywix and his Dark Fuse crew. You visit the heads of all the other goblin cartels in town, and if not get them on side necessarily, then at least make yourselves known before Alleria arrives and you start unraveling the mystery of exactly how Gallywix has established such a firm hold on the city, which it basically turns out is the Dark Heart. Xal'atath has entrusted the artifact with Gallywix to fix it for her using black blood encased and controlled by the goblin's own Kajamite, a newly developed technique which Gallywix is also using to make powerful black blood empowered weapons, hence why his gang is so powerful now. There's also lots of ethereals of the voidy persuasion lurking around trying to get hold of the Dark Heart, and although Alleria assumes that they are working for Xal'atath, who has just run out of patience with Gally, lines from Xal'atath herself later on, because yes, unexpectedly for me, Xal'atath is indeed in this patch. I didn't think we'd see her again until 11.2, which shows what I know. Her lines leave it a lot more ambiguous as to whether these particular ethereals answer to her or not. But either way, the Voidy Bandage boys managed to steal the Dark Heart and make their escape, which is where I thought these campaign quests were going to end. But actually, there's a whole extra like half an hour bit at the end where you literally lead a revolution against Gallywix with the United Goblin Cartels and the oppressed peoples of the Undermine, which is so up my alley, seriously. You fight some baddies, you march on the Galaggio, and I shit you not, tear down the statue of Gallywix outside. And this is a good story, this is fun, but here is why I love this story campaign. Because there is obviously the cliffhanger of the ethereals taking the Dark Heart and what they are going to do with it, but the story of Undermine, the patch itself, you basically complete it in the opening questing. You track the Dark Heart, you lose the Dark Heart, you decide to stick around and overthrow Gallywix, you go into the Galaggio and take out Gallywix himself. That'll be done and dusted after the raid, which you can do on story mode very early on. Oh, and for the record, I genuinely don't think there is going to be any big reveal or revelation at the end of that Gallywix fight, even though it looks very suspiciously like it might have a secret mythic phase though, which is actually fine because honestly, it doesn't need one. In the community, I feel like we've gotten used to praying for huge reveals at the end of new raids. But I think that need for big revelations in raid cinematics comes because we've needed them to give us clues as to what is actually going on. But by the end of all these campaign chapters, we already know what's going on. There is no BFA or Shadowlands cliffhanger fatigue going on here. You have completed the main story of the zone very quickly. It has a satisfying arc and conclusion, and then your character is just choosing to hang about the place from then on in to help the goblins rebuild after the revolution and collect cool stuff while we wait for Alleria to find out where the ethereals have taken the Dark Heart. I think it's a much more satisfying way to deliver the story than we're used to in major patches, and it really does cement the ways that War Within has elevated the game's main campaign structure and delivery. I'm a big fan, and thus ends the Red Bot Spoiler Bot section.
Delves. There are 2 new delves and a new Zekvir-style solo delve in 11.1. Excavation Site 9 is situated in the new area of the Ringing Deeps and is an old Titan facility almost completely smothered by hot pink voidy black blood vibes. And Side Street Sluice takes place in the sewers below Undermine and has lots of mazy walkways and teleports and stuff. Brand's new tanking specialization isn't testable yet, but honestly, it's just nice to have a couple of new aesthetics in the Delve rotation, especially since we are all going to be running the heck out of them in Season 2, as they now reward gilded crests. That's right, the top tier crest used for upgrading heroic and mythic track gear will now not just drop from mythic and some heroic raid bosses and level 8 and up keystones, but also from tier 8 and up the map that drops from Zekfir when he crashes your delve, and tier 11 delves, which will reward the gilded stash upon completion with lives left. This is all just from data mining so far, but currently each gilded stash rewards 6 gilded crests, up to a limit of 18 per week that can be earned through delves, which isn't loads, but which is a whole lot more than the 0 delvers have been earning in Season 1. So this is big for solo players and for alts too, which is something we've been saying all the way through this expansion, I know, but it really is, okay? Like a big face on a mount, like that kind of big, with a cigar, gilded cigar. Other changes. There's some other little changes we've come across on the PTR too. In 11.1, hunters will finally be able to change our pet specializations in the stable. This is an absolute game changer for anyone who's ever bombed a key because they failed to bring the right pet along because it simply did not pass the visual vibe check. I'm not saying I've ever done it, but you know, thank you. Now let me do it from my bars. No, I'm kidding. I love it. Thank you. But yeah, actually doing it from my bars would be nice is all I'm saying, but thank you. And finally, perhaps the coolest and most appreciated change is to the humble swirly, the area of effect zone, whatever you want to call it. Swirlies have received a major graphical update, making them no longer swirly, really, and instead giving us bright circles with clearly defined edges. This is a huge quality of life change for the visually impaired and for anyone whose PC goes into potato mode when multiple ground effects kick in. The downside? You no longer have an excuse for getting steamrolled by the swirlies. Or the circles? Is a swirly still a swirly if it doesn't swirl?
There is, of course, also the new dungeon coming in patch 11.1, which we haven't had the chance to test yet, the new raid, which we also haven't tested, and substantial class changes for just about everyone in the game, which a lot of classes are currently pretty unhappy with, and which we won't talk about here either because this is meant to be a video about stuff we like. But even with all that in mind, so far, I'm really genuinely heartened and excited by what I've seen in Undermine. It's a distinctive, playful patch with clearly a lot of love in it. It's one of those zones where everything just feels like the devs are having a huge amount of fun making it, and that joy is infectious. I like what it does with the story and how it clearly signposts what will be coming next. I think the D.R.I.V.E system is a genuine success. There's a lot to look forward to here. Obviously, this is after a week. The real judgment will come a couple of months in and when the mini patches start hitting. But for now, I'm very excited to go full on goblin mode for a bit. But what do you think? Have you played the PTR? What are your impressions of it from your own experience or just what you've seen so far? Genuinely, we would love to know. So let us know in the comments below. And thanks for joining us today. If you like this video, don't thank us, thank our patrons who give their actual real life money to make all of our work happen. And seriously, patrons, thank you. Because without you, there would be a whole lot less Taliesin and Evertel. If you didn't like it, downvote the shit out of it. And remember, my name is Artemirs. No, my name is Taliesin from me and Evertel. Until next time, cheerio.